Welcome back to... Hi, Josh. Yeah, just doing the excuses video now. Yeah, all right, mate. Oh, I'd tell your dad, don't worry about a forward. Yeah, all right, mate. Cheers. Bye-bye. Yeah. In a season like this, it is very easy to get drawn into all or nothing thinking. The manager is right or is wrong. The football is good or is bad. As we all desperately await the first big shiny thing in the Mikel era, debate rages and good quality thinking can sometimes take a back seat to rage-induced ranting from unmet expectations. Myself absolutely included, by the way. I might be all calm and scripted in these videos, but I'm certainly not averse to sort it out, Mikel, from time to time. So today I want to step back and speak a little bit more philosophically to try and understand where we're at with this manager from a wider view, what he's getting right, what he's getting wrong, and where we can critique him. My last 4 videos in a row have been critical of Mikel and the wider club in some way, because Josh paid me so I can double bluff you guys. Wait, cut that out, Will, cut that out. But if I am going to critique his game model, as a fan who's never coached a team in his life, I think it's only fair to at least try to understand what he's aiming for. I'm not saying I do understand what he's aiming for at all times. Absolutely not. But I want to, and trying to see what Mikel's aim is makes a very important assumption that there is an aim behind pretty much everything we see, which I don't think is always factored into analysis. We go, how can't he see this? Rather than, he must see this, so why is he doing it? Is the too much thinking in itself a problem? More on that later. Mikel did an interview with Sky's Pat Davison recently, and it was extraordinary. If you're not a fan of Mikel, fair enough, but do me a favour, please spend 8 minutes watching that video. And if it isn't available in your country, might I suggest a VPN? No, there's no ad. You might come away saying you still want him out or he's not good enough for whatever reason. Fine. But watch it and try and argue to me that he doesn't have a clear idea of what he wants to do on a pitch. You simply won't be able to. In the space of 8 minutes, in a public interview, by the way, amongst other things, he reveals that him and his coaching staff have a specific picture of the data they want when they come to review things post every game. He reveals there's many factors he looks for in breaking down even just one stat relating to the sequence of the game, who was involved, etc. He says it's, quote, not too difficult to predict how a game will go, and gives the example that on the second phase of a corner, if you turn your body, as happened against Spurs with Saliba and Partey, you're more likely to concede because it's just probability. And then you extrapolate that out for every action you make on a pitch. Galaxy brain stuff, if you really think about it. He talks about the drizzle of culture, expectations, the 3 specific messages he gives to players before they go out about the opponent's weaknesses, how him and the coaching staff get angry at the timing of the press, scenario reactions, and much more. I'll be real, I think he was flexing a little bit. So yeah, let's critique Mikel, but this is clearly a guy with an idea. And you can't judge something as a rock concert when it was meant to be a play. Jamie Carragher did some analysis of Arsenal the other day on M&F, looking at the lack of chances created in central areas. And it was interesting. Look through the comments, and it's Jamie spot on, Arteta out, and so on. To his credit, Jamie did actually say Arsenal prefer the wide areas, i.e. he admits there is a choice aspect here. I'm sure many of you will have seen this graph, courtesy again of Data Analytics EPL on X, looking at ball progression from the middle third to the final third, where Arsenal remain the team with the lowest amount of middle third progression in the Premier League and the highest proportion of their progression on the flanks up to a few days ago. It must be a choice. But then instead of looking at why they might prefer the wide areas, the benefits and the drawbacks, the play, he cycles through some clips and shows the moments where Arsenal players exit the pocket to remove that pass inside. He judges it as a rock concert. Jamie says, by comparison, Liverpool are much better at finding those zones inside, and Arsenal need to improve it if they want to go up the table. Now, love Jamie, great analyst, lovely guy as well, but I think this is the wrong question to be asking about Arsenal. To me, it's a misunderstanding of Mikel's philosophy. As we were alluding to earlier, it tacitly assumes this isn't a choice, that the coach doesn't know this is happening or can't coach it out of the team. And when you look at that graph earlier, it doesn't feel like a mistake to me. Ironically, in one part of the analysis, he says Marino should be in the pocket and he's out wide because he's providing a pre-assist for Trossard before the cross for the goal. It is a choice. We've spoken about lack of central access on this channel before, and it is a problem at certain times in certain games when the wide areas aren't working. But both goals against Villa came from wide. A coach would prefer wide progression for a number of reasons. Firstly, to fit the profiles they have. Players who prefer to drop out of the block or aren't as comfortable receiving on the inside. So in our case, players like Odegaard and Rice, which to be fair, Jamie acknowledges as well. But it's mainly because, although it has drawbacks, a team are far more able to pen teams in when they progress wide. They lose the ball less, and they're able to regain it better in the final third. For a coach like Mikel, aiming to control, to dominate teams, to come with wave after wave of attack and not let it become a basketball match, it's perfect. And there's 3 aspects to look at. First, security. Here, Jamie's asking for someone to come into that pocket and that ball to go inside. But imagine Rice is inside there and say Miles misplaces that pass, which is very risky, and the opposition win it. Newcastle would have, in one pass, an easy transition moment with Gordon far side there, potentially a 5v3, depending on how we recover, or a ball over the top to Isak straight away if we lose it centrally. This one, Jamie's asking why Marino, in the build-up to the goal, isn't in that pocket receiving. Forget the goal. Imagine Marino is in there and Trossard misplaces that pass, or Marino loses it. Villa could pick it up quite quickly. They got a 4v3 within a pass or two, and we're running over our shoulders. It's about security, sustaining attacks. Secondly, if you lose the ball out wide because that's where you're losing it, it's much easier to regain it. And that's because you can use the touchline as another defender. Regain, retain. 2 situations here, literally the same minute against Villa on either side. Ball is progressed right, goes wide to Havertz, who takes his man on. Hello, mate. And we lose the ball. If that's in the centre of the pitch, you're prone to all sorts of issues. Villa can reset, regain control, maybe play an out ball. Instead, Arsenal react, swarm, and literally back Villa into the corner. They have nowhere to go because of the touchline. They're forced long. We win it back. New wave. 10 seconds later, ball goes left to Trossard, eventually inside to Marino, who loses it, ironically playing a risky central pass. But again, Villa have only limited ways to go. Back, long, or a risky ball of their own inside. Arsenal swarm. Look how many men step forward, supported by the touch and byline, which forces them back to Martinez. Gabriel wins it back. New wave. And third aspect. Maybe using the wide areas leads to less silky, Wenger ball, central stuff that we all love, but it can lead to more reliable and high quality chance creation through cutbacks and crosses. I want us to find more variety in the final third, but as a method of chance creation, it's tier 1. There's a brilliant article about this trend at the World Cup a few years ago on The Athletic, and that article in turn was inspired by a Juan Malillo article, aka Pep's assistant, who talks about its benefits. 3 benefits. Teams pack the central spaces so well nowadays, it's harder to find goals from there for a start, so working wide or going over the top is more reliable to find joy. Second, a lot of cutbacks are one-time finishes, giving the opponent less time to react and more time for the attacker to prepare. Thirdly, as the ball goes wide, defences often step back, which reliably and consistently opens up spaces inside the box where you know you can run into, actually with more time to think, and so on. With cutbacks also, you can kind of predict and train the places where that ball can go by telling you, okay, when I go there, you run to here. Especially when you have players who aren't necessarily penalty box demons, for want of a better word, in the Rice and Odegaards and Havertz's, and with wide players like Saka, Martinelli and Ben White, who tend to get pretty reliable balls into the box and most of whom can beat their man, it makes sense to use that method. Now, let's be absolutely clear. I would like some more central progression. I think it would help in certain games. I've said that many times. I don't love the horseshoe when we're chasing a game as much as you probably don't. I'd love to see us sign a player who is able to receive more inside, our Phil Foden, because it's a tactical weapon I don't know if we have. It's effective, but it's risk averse. Not denying that. Pep, for example, prefers the central spaces and leans into that danger, discussed in a video I've shown before, but that's why we do what Jamie is critiquing. Do I want to be absolutely dead last on that graph? Maybe not. But I'm not sure I want to be first either. And I suppose the best way to judge it as an ideological choice, and it is a choice, is to look at the outcomes. We are top of the table for all the defensive metrics you want. Goals conceded, XG against, XG per shot, shots in the box. And that tactic massively helps. But we're on average about 4th or 5th for all the attacking metrics. The regain, retain aspect is great, but it limits us in another way. Are the benefits, the control, the wave after wave of attack, the defensive metrics you get from it, worth the drop-off in the attacking metrics? To me, on balance, just about no. So I'd shift it. However, if we had slightly more ruthless attacking talent, the balance might shift. Mikel will always prioritise control over chaos. It's in every aspect of what we do. Okay, today we've spoken about the wide areas, but we know that's his main objective in every aspect. Stability, calm, domination. He said himself, we want to be kings of everything. But the main thrust of that is not bad just because it's hurting us in one aspect. Step back and appreciate we're in these conversations in a title race. But while I don't think Jamie is asking quite the right question for this team, I do think he is getting at something which we all feel, and that's a question mark over Mikel's approach, philosophically, to risk. Mikel said many times before that he learns from other sports. In the summer, he spoke about his relationship with Kroenke-owned NFL team, the LA Rams head coach, Sean McVay. He said, there's a lot of know-how and skills that we can take and build from each other. He's spoken before about his love for Rafa Nadal, says he's in a number of other coaching circles, goes to seminars and so on. And that's great. I'm a big believer you can learn from everyone, no matter what walk of life they're in or what level of expertise they have. And I don't buy this dictator thing. I don't think you get to the level he's at if you're not a good listener. But I wonder if there is something in this learning from other sports thing that has led to a bit of a defect in what I view as his methodology. Prepare for the most galaxy brain take you've ever heard, which really could be summed up in a few sentences, but I've got time. Is Mikel's philosophy a touch unsuitable for a low-scoring sport? I said a touch, not rip it up and get rid of it. Because my sense from all the we deserve to win and if we play like that we'll win a lot of matches type stuff he often says post-match is this. Mikel deeply believes, basically, if you control everything you can, all the final third touches, all the box entries, the higher XG, more XT, more XA, etc. In other words, you control all the controllables, then the fine margins will, because it's probability, go your way. Stuff like penalties, offsides, toes, refereeing decisions, that stuff will go your way because they can't get a penalty if you're in their box. Now, that idea makes a lot of sense for success in a high-scoring sport like NBA or tennis because there's so many margins that can affect a score. A tennis player, for example, on average, serves 120 times a match. On a serve, you are theoretically one action from a point with an ace 120 times a game. So if you get your first serve in, correct, right placement, right spin, 120 times, you'll win a lot of tennis matches. Even if luck, the weather, the umpire, somehow PGMOL are still there, are all against you. Because there's 120 chances to change the number in the top left-hand corner. But the difference in football is there's much fewer chances to change that number. You maybe get 10 moments across a normal game where you are one action, one kick, one decision from doing that. Maybe less, maybe more, but it's not 120. And that's only for one player. Our game model theoretically means the margins should go for us. Because if you're in the final third, you're putting the ball in the box, you're getting the XG and so on and so on and so on, the margins are going to spin for you eventually. If there were 100 chances to change the score in a football match, we'd probably win them all. But if there's 3 margins in a match, you massively reduce your probability. And you might end up, yes, with all the control, but with nothing to show for it. So, to sum up my galaxy brain take here, to win more football matches, do we need to create more margins? And to create more margins, we need more broken play. You have to stress opponents, get people running, doing unpredictable things to force those margins. Penalty shouts, pockets of space, unpredictable shots, unpredictable movements. But in that margin making, you give up some of your own predictability. And Mikel won't like that. However, I'm sorry to labour the point, if you are already controlling a lot of the game, just a few more margins could be a massive swing in your favour. I can't help with this, but look at games like Liverpool's 6-3 against Spurs. Yeah, they gave up 1.27 XG against a B team Tottenham, big chances, some crazy moments. But they had 24 shots and 11 big chances. You know how many we had against Villa? 2. Overall, wherever you look, however you dress it up, the criticism from Jamie Carragher, YouTubers, fans, whoever of Mikel's philosophy is basically this, isn't it? We want to be surprised. We don't want to know how the game is going to go. We don't want to be so predictable. We don't want to feel, in suffocating opponents, we're also suffocating ourselves. In the glow of Unai Emery chaos ball when Arteta came in, Kieran Tierney came out and did an interview where he revealed that Mikel literally tells you what's going to happen on a field. I remember watching that at the time and thinking, Wow, what a relief from what we've just seen. But now, is it time to not know what's going to happen a little bit more? And will that get us over the line? If you like The Different Knock, you can support us on Patreon monthly, or you can buy us a coffee.